Hello, everyone, and welcome to my interview with Vulcan here. It is the third day of World's Group or of MSI group stage, with coverage brought to you by Alienware. Vulcan, how has Busan been? We were just talking a little bit about this before the start of the interview. How are you holding up?
I'm holding up pretty good. I think the weather's nice. The hotel has a pretty nice view of the beach and everything. The food is good, and we have impact to order food for us because it's kind of hard to order food in Korea when you're not from Korea.
Yeah.
And having impact around is very nice because he's like, "Okay, guys, what do you want to eat?" And then he just grabs us food, and it has been pretty nice.
Very, very clear. I'm sure that was a huge part of the reason why you guys decided to have him as a top laner for the team. I'm sure.
Yes, that was one of the biggest reasons. Yes.
You heard that MSI was going to be in Busan, and you figured, okay. All right. Well, how are the games going? Because you guys are 2-2 right now, but I feel like it's probably not the 2-2 that you guys would prefer. I don't know. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the first thing is that we are kind of treating this, I guess they call it the group stage, this group stage as a warm up for us, or like a transition period. I would say it's a lot of games. So it's 8 games. And as long as we're able to beat order, which isn't too hard of a task for us, we go to the next round. So we're trying to adapt to this new environment. We have new players who have never been to an international tournament before. So we're trying to take things slower and make sure that we're in the right spot for the next round. And even though that sounds like me making excuses, but the game was pretty trash yesterday against G2 because there's no way that we should ever lose that one. And I messed up a lot of the team fights to lose. So that felt pretty bad, but we're trying to just not let it affect us very much because we can still go into the next round. And then if we grab a win against G2 there, it's so much more impactful in the Rumble stage.
Well, I understand your drafting coach was actually in quarantine, couldn't make it to the last couple of days. So again, not to make excuses, but I am curious how much of an impact that has had on the team's performance and having him back today. I don't know if you feel like that was significant.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a very key member of our team. And we kind of saw that after he came in LA, because he wasn't always in LA as well. You had visualization, and then it felt like our drafts were much cleaner and much, I guess, just better on stage after he was able to come in the LCS. So it's nice to have him back with us as well. Yeah, here.
I think it's been fascinating to see how you guys are doing. I was talking to Inspired for Rift Reaction, the show I do with Emily, just before the start of the event, and it was funny to see him kind of be like, well, like we've realized there's a lot to work to do since we got here, and we've been playing some catch up and all that stuff. So I guess how were scrims and everything before group stage started going for you guys, and what was it rough?
Scrims are rough. Well, we had a very big gap in the strength of the team, so we would scrim Korean teams and struggle, and then we would scrim non-Korean teams or Chinese teams and not struggle at all. So I mean, obviously T1 went undefeated in their region, so it makes sense that they would stomp around and piss any team like us. And there's a lot of catching up to do. They are very clean. And the thing is, though, that Jojo did learn a lot from those games, and he was like, oh, wow, this guy's pretty good. And he was saying that he was learning a lot, and that he was like, oh, if I play against this guy every day, I would be the best player in the world, which I'm sure that's something he actually believes. So we're learning, and we are catching up. So yeah, scrims are going the usual way when you're in any team.
Yes. Well, how have you and maybe Impact, and maybe you haven't, but I'm just kind of curious, but how are you guys working with Danny and Jojo? Because obviously this is a bit of a different thing for them. I guess a different experience, especially Jojo probably facing off against some of these mid laners.
Yeah, well, I'm trying myself to kind of keep things. The word I was thinking is chill, but that sounds like Reddit will want my head for saying this. So
you
I
have
want
to be very careful with your phrasing.
Yes, I do. Maybe more laid back, more
lighthearted.
Lighthearted. That's a good one. Keeping things like that, because you can easily go into this kind of event and stay 24/7 in the practice room and go a bit crazy in there, and then it can affect the rest of the year, and then the rest of the year can affect the rest of your career, and you all want to be in esports for a long time and have longevity and stay like keep going to these events consistently and you always want to be going to these tournaments and play against the best. So it's important to not grind away in solo queue and carry in solo queue and not sleep and eat in there 24/7. And yeah, so that's the kind of thing that I'm mentioning to them, just so that they don't have too much pressure. Just try to keep things lighthearted, like you said. And yeah, we're learning anyway, so it's good.
With you referenced earlier that facing the Korean teams was difficult, facing the Chinese teams less. So I guess I'll bring that.
We didn't play the Chinese team yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Well,
Yeah.
I sounded like you were saying that about your scrims, that you would be facing Korean teams and you would be doing well, and then maybe you'd scrim Chinese teams. Maybe I misunderstood.
I probably misspoke. Yeah.
Okay. Well, whatever. Let's move to the question I was going to ask, which is, what do you think of RNG and T1? Because I think there are a lot of people's favorites to get to the finals, but there's been some discussion recently about the strength of RNG after the first couple days. So what do you think of those two teams? Obviously, T1 continues to look dominant, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I personally think T1 is better. Seems like they have a more consistent play style, and they also probably have better players overall. But I do think that for us as a team, it's probably easier to beat RNG. It's always easier to beat LPL teams than LCK teams in my experience, because LPL teams kind of go into the game a bit carefree, and they might have one skirmish go wrong and then the game kind of gets blown apart. And yeah, so it's easier to beat LPL teams in my experience. And I also just think that T1 is probably a better team this tournament as well.
Yeah. All right. The obvious thing that everybody's been talking about is the ping. How is the ping? Does it feel like 35? Does it feel like 60? I feel like everybody's like almost like a wine connoisseur as they're like saying things about the ping, and well, the hotel ping is different or whatever. So what's been your experience with it?
My experience with the ping was that, at least before today, the ping felt much higher than, or maybe not much higher, but like a good amount higher than 35, which is the number that shows up on your screen. Right. And it felt much more. It felt much more stuttery and laggy and unresponsive. And today, when I was warming up in practice soul before the stage game, it felt nicer to me. And I mentioned it, and then Danny was like, "Oh yeah, I think it's nicer too." So I don't know if something going on in our heads, or I don't know if I had put a command in there.
They haven't commented at all, I assume. They haven't told you guys that they're doing any work on it or anything like that.
No, we haven't heard anything. But it felt nicer to me, so that's nice. But I definitely felt like there was issues with the server or whatever before. Yeah.
Well, winding down the interview, what do you think NA fans should be taking from these first 3 days, I guess, for EG? Because obviously there's been a lot of discussion. Jojo goes out there, tweets crazy stuff, which supposedly you're ghostwriting for him, and then then people are like, "Oh, he got smashed by Caps. He actually sucks," or whatever. So there's a lot of discussion right now about EG and what people should take from it. So what do you think folks should be looking at these games as?
Well, people should remember Jojo's 17, and he has the kind of person, like when he says these kind of things, yes, I'm ghostwriting his tweets for him, but it's still like something that he actually believes, and he is that confident. And it's the kind of attitude that I feel like you need as a player if you're to go up against Faker and you actually want to win the game. You can't just be like, "Oh my God, it's Faker. Do I pick Karma to try and help my team or something?" Like, you probably won't win the game if you're going to the game like that and you're calling him Faker in game instead of calling him by his champion name, right? That's no good. So yeah, Jojo is confident, and maybe we got clapped. But he's 17, first international tournament. He is learning a lot, and he's playing against better players than he's ever played against before. And he's actually learning new ways to shit on people, right? Because he's getting shit on in a new way. So I think it is just a very good thing for us. And we have two young players who can take a lot from this event. And going forward, even throughout this event, I think we will see a lot of improvement from us. And then going into Summer Split as well, I think we'll have a very good leg up on other NA teams.
Well, thank you so much, Vulcan, for the interview. Looking forward to seeing you guys face off in your next day of groups in just a couple days. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things MSI right here on my YouTube channel. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview. You might be seeing some misplays, and during this MSI, you're looking at it, you're like, wow, this latency stuff, whatever. You know what? If you want to limit your misplays, because you want to avoid lag, not network lag, but computer lag, you should check out Alienware. There's a link in the description below. Thank you to Alienware so much for supporting what we do here, and I'm gonna go get some sleep because it's late.